All right, welcome to Lizards Location presents Tavern Ramblings, session or episode number 7. I'm John, and I'm also here with
Andrew, let's talk about how Forgotten Realms is.
yeah. So today's session or episode, what we're doing here, we'll just call it episode, the player's handbook so far from these releases for the 2024. As of recording this, the book has not come out yet, but they have been releasing interviews with Jeremy Crawford, Chris Perkins, some of the artistic directors, as they're being interviewed about some of the stuff. So that's what we're going to kind of talk about. We're going to talk about the 2024 handbook and how it differs from the 2014 handbook. We're going to call it 5.5 because that's a nice little nod back to what the third edition when they did the 3.5, right?
Yep.
So that's what we'll be looking at today. As of recording this, they've released 4 videos: a player's handbook video, a fighter video, a paladin video, and a barbarian video. So that's what we're going to try to, bring ourselves into on those. So if this releases afterwards, and you're like, hey, why are we not talking about Ranger? That's why. Okay.
Yeah, it
so
just
that being said,
came out. It just came out. So we're like, oh shit, let's get this shit into the archives. Let's talk about it. Let's get some ramblings in.
Yeah, buddy. So let's go ahead and kind of dig into it. The PHB so far. There are 12 classes, which is exactly like the 2014 classes. They are the same classes, actually.
Get fucking wrecked, Artificer.
Modified.
Get wrecked, Artificer.
I know, Artificer.
Get in the ground.
Yes, poor Artificer here. The good news is that there are 48 subclasses, and what's cool about these subclasses is that every single one of them is either new or updated, right? Now, there's only 3 brand new ones, and those brand new ones that we're looking at are going to be the Path of the World tree, right? That's a new one that has kind of come about. We've also seen the new, oh my gosh, what is it? I want to say Monk has a new one. Let me double check myself before I wreck myself here. Not the Monk, sorry, the Bard. There's the College of Dance Bard and the College of the Sea Druid. Those 2 things haven't come out yet. They just told us that they will be in there, right?
Yeah.
So those are 3 brand new subclasses. Everything else has gotten a new workup. What's cool about it is that, for the Wizard, and correct me if I'm wrong, in the 2014 handbook, the Wizard had like 7 or 8 different subclasses, which took away from some of the other classes, right?
Well, the reason, the Wizard had a different subclass for every school of magic.
Yes, yeah.
Which is
like abjuration, divination.
Yeah, etc. And then, and you look at the other classes, they had 3, maybe 4 if they were lucky. And then the Wizard had a bunch because Wizards were the one that they knew were like, okay, if you want to play a complicated class, here's the Wizard. Since it's so complicated, we have to make it more and more and more and more and more. And it was like, it definitely gave the impression that Wizard is the favored child. Like, this is the class that gets the most attention. It's the most power. It may not be the most powerful one, like in terms of raw numbers, but the sheer versatility of a Wizard, almost to a certain point, made every other class kind of irrelevant.
Yeah, and one of the things we see with that is that there just was an imbalance in subclasses. So what they did was they decided to do was put 4 subclasses per every class. So of those 12 classes, they will each have a 4 subclass. No ifs, ands, or buts. The Wizard will also only have 4 subclasses. Now, what's cool about that is that it's 5.5, right? So those other subclasses still exist. They just haven't been changed or updated yet. That's all.
Yeah, they've only updated the new ones. You can still go back to the 2014 version and just use those ones.
Yeah, so it's not like those things have disappeared. It's literally just these 4 are the ones that we're giving precedence to, right? So another cool thing about them having these new subclasses is that it also updates the Creative Commons as well, right? So when this player's handbook gets released in the Creative Commons, those new subclasses get put in that as well. So that's kind of cool. They kept all of the races. I think they're called species now, but they kept all of that from the previous handbook, but they added 3 new ones that were in other books. I want to say like Xanathar's Guide, or Mordecai's Tome of Foes. I think was one of them. But they added Orc. Orc is now, like, you have half Orc already,
right,
but you now have Orc as a PHB race. You have the Goliath, which so many Goliaths are so popular now,
Yeah,
so it makes sense.
there really wasn't any way they weren't going to add the Goliath.
Yeah, and then they brought in the Azamar. So that was another one they brought in, which was actually kind of a surprise for me. I wasn't sure that they would bring that one in.
It makes sense. I'm kind of like saying they probably should have just made the Azamar a subspecies of Tiefling. Like they're the same idea, just of different polar extremes of like the creature being used.
Yeah, and they haven't announced all the races yet, but from what I remember, they were trying some new races during the playtest. So I don't know if those will show up or not. Like there was
suppose, but like they just released a bunch of new races in the I want to say the Multiverse of Madness, but the Monsters of the Multiverse.
No, yeah. Which is I think Mordecai.
Yeah.
So we'll see. We will have to have the book in our hands, or at least have a deep dive when that comes by. The biggest change I think that you and I could probably spend a lot of time talking about is weapon masteries. Right, that is huge. It is probably one of the most tactical things added to this game in a while.
Yeah.
So let's talk about weapon masteries a little bit. What is this new system that they played around with in the playtest?
Well, from what I understand, and don't get me, and like I've got like 3 different versions of the weapon masteries playing out in my head. We got the original one. We've got the reworked one. We've got the one that we use at our table that is just like me saying this is stupid. I'm doing what I want to do. And then we have the last one, which let me think. Let me look at it again real quick just so I know. I know that the fighter has specific things that they can do where they just get a lot of weapon masteries. Like they have 3 weapon masteries that they can just use no matter what weapon they're using. It's literally just that's what they have so many more they have like those base 3 options.
Yeah, they have leaned into the idea that the fighter is so good at fighting that they will at a certain level get the ability to use weapon mastery, a certain like a collected version. I think like Sap is one of them or something like that, where they will be able to use those with any weapon that they use.
Yeah.
But yeah, so weapon masteries, and we don't have the official writing yet. You know, as they're posting these videos, they're giving us the details of change, but they're not really giving us, this is what it directly says in the book, right? So, you know, that can also change interpretation as things go. But right now, weapon masteries, from what I've heard, they still don't have flex in it anymore.
I didn't see flex,
which is sad. I love flex. I don't think it's too OP. I think it makes sense. You know, you're so good at using a longsword that you can use the two-handed property of it while wearing a shield.
Yeah,
you know?
it just gives it a little bit different thing, because like a weapon mastery is different than like what you might get from, say, proficiency with a longsword because you're an elf, for instance.
Yeah.
Like, yes, you've seen people using swords. Like, your culture like knows what a sword is. They know like the basic. Take a sword, apply force to this, slash at stuff, poke at stuff, etc., etc. Like it's like you can use it, but now it's like, okay, this is, you know how to use it. You know how to how to maximize its efficiency. So I don't mind flex. I think it was fine.
Yeah, and what's cool about these weapon masteries, the way they designed it is that the martial classes will get it literally from the beginning. Like at level 1, you are going to be able to do stuff. I think it's like most of them get like 2 to start with, right?
Yeah.
But like with that being said, these weapon masteries can change. They can grow over time. And what's really, really fun about these weapon masteries is they're also going to be making them into feats. So if I'm a wizard, I can take a feat for a weapon mastery, which is going to add more feats, which we need, right? We desperately need that.
Well, we'll talk about the feats and stuff in a little bit, I think, because that is something that I have some opinions on about how they did some more like feat things that they talked about.
Yeah, but at least making weapon masteries a feat allows your warlock or your wizard or your sorcerer or even your druid to take on more of that martial prowess when you get to a certain level, right?
Yeah.
Which is pretty cool. I enjoy that aspect of the weapon masteries.
Yeah.
So from what I'm understanding, once again, we do not have the direct language underneath these, but it seems like they are attributing them to a specific weapon.
Yeah.
So like, you know, if you have the heavy crossbow, it does push, right? It is going to push you back 10 or 20 feet, whatever it is. You know, can't remember what
it's 10 feet.
10 feet, yeah. So that's what the heavy crossbow does. Now, what we use in our, you want to kind of define what we use for our system, what we do in our version of Weapon Masters?
Yeah, during I want to say it was either the playtests 6 or 7, they had an actual listing of like what you could use each weapon mastery for. So like, let's say like, oh yeah, the grace, you can use the grace if it has the heavy property. You can use cleave if it has the heavy property. And I was just like, okay, instead of picking weapons that you have mastery over, you just have the masteries. Like, you know how to use a weapon to cleave. You know how to use a weapon to nick. You know how to use a weapon to do these things, and you just kind of apply that to the weapons that you're carrying. And that was a way for us to have a person who knows how to use a weapon in several different ways instead of having to carry 7 weapons for there's 7 masteries that they get if they're a fighter. And it was just like a bit more of a clean way to do it.
Yeah.
Again, we don't have the chart in front of us, like the table of weapons. They just give examples, like the grays, where if you, I think it's the one where is the gray? If you miss, if you miss, you do your ability modifier. That's what I thought it was.
Yeah.
But like,
so great.
Yeah, and that's the one for the greatsword. But like, is there a reason why you couldn't use cleave with a greatsword?
Which gives it to the great axe, I believe.
Yeah, like it also comes in with. It also is on the halberd. Is one of the examples they gave.
Okay.
Halberd has reach and cleave, so you can. It's a pretty good. That's a pretty cool thing. And like, I know there are differences between these different weapons, and it makes sense. Like, yeah, is a sword meant to be used to cleave things? No, not really. But that doesn't mean you can't use it to do that kind of thing. Like, I wouldn't necessarily say that a crossbow is used to push something, but like, it makes sense.
Yeah, it's really interesting to me because if you think about it, it's like they tried justifying it, and it kind of makes sense, right? Like a short sword versus scimitar. Short swords do piercing, scimitars do slashing. So if I am a weapon master of a scimitar, I use it slightly different than I use a short sword, right? However, in the same point, that's like saying short swords were never used for slashing.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, and that's not true. Like, just in history and in fantasy, short swords are also used for slashing. But, like, it's kind of interesting, even if they're dulled, versus their tip. But, like,
yeah,
they are used.
And, like, the biggest differences I'm thinking of that I would be like, well, this doesn't, like, I can see this going either way, is, like, the examples they gave for the maul, which is, like, topple, which is make a concentration throw or fall prone, versus the great club, which is push, can, like, I know the difference between a great club and a maul is like, okay, one's like a big hammer and the other is just like a big stick. But like, I could absolutely see somebody running up with a great club and smashing you into the ground so you're prone. Like, either way, it would work. And I can also see somebody coming in with a maul and baseball swinging you back and you fly back 10 feet. Like, both of them work.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, absolutely. So I really am, I'm anxious to see what they have, right? I want to see the actual text that they've decided upon. Because as of right now, just from the videos and text that they have put out, it seems like they're leaning towards the weapon. And like, in a typical adventure, let's be honest, most people carry 2 to 3 weapons on them, right? If you're a martial class.
Sure.
So I get that if you have 2 weapon masteries, those are the ones that you'd be good at. Like a person who uses a maul may not be the best with a lance, right? Sure. Like, I get that idea that they're going with. But at the same point, at least I hope they made it a variant rule, right? To go with, so that people can experiment with either.
I mean, either way, honestly, I don't see myself changing the rules that we're going by at our table. Like, I'll probably just do the same thing I'm doing now. I like how it works. I like it better than the examples they're giving. And I'll probably have flex in there as well, because I think flex is fine, and I don't see a reason why somebody who knows how to use a longsword couldn't use a longsword with one hand to its highest extent.
Yeah, I plan on having flex too, and I plan on probably just using the same way we've been doing it.
The crazy thing too is, like, it's not even like it used to be in 3.5, where back then if you used 2 hands on a versatile weapon, you got a freaking damage multiplier. Like, you did an extra 50% damage because you had 2 hands. Like, it doesn't even have that. It's just like you have the possibility of 2 more damage. Like, that's nothing.
Yeah.
Like both of those dice can still roll ones. Like it's less likely to do so, but that doesn't make any sense to me. That like, oh, it does more damage if you have. It has like it's just that the math doesn't math for me. I prefer to just if someone can use a longsword, they can use a longsword.
Yeah. On a side note / ramble, there is nothing better than talking D&D and drinking a Baja Blast. This is so refreshing.
I also have a Baja Blast.
Yes, we're in each other's minds.
We are Baja Blast brothers right now.
So another thing I saw that besides weapon masteries, and we could spend. I mean, I really want to see the text on. We could spend a whole session on.
We'll get there.
Masteries.
We'll get there.
But new surprise rule. Did you see that one? I don't know if you.
I did hear about the surprise rule where they're getting rid of the surprise round and they are instead just giving you disadvantage on your initiative roll.
Yeah, and I get that they said it was a lot of it was designed especially for the fighter. I can't remember which subclass it was of the fighter, but one of those fighters, I think it's the champion. Right?
Yeah, it was the champion fighter. One, I think it was the assassin rogue, and then every single barbarian also gets advantage. Yeah. At some point, like at different points they get it, but every barbarian eventually gets advantage on initiative.
Yeah, essentially they will never be surprised.
Well, there is there is no such thing as surprise anymore. Yeah.
And so the idea of surprise now is that you get disadvantage for that entire for the initiative, right? Is what you get. So if I am being ambushed, let's say we are a group of 4 adventurers and we get ambushed and we had no idea, we failed our perception checks and such, we would have the surprised condition, if you will, which means that we just roll our initiative with disadvantage. Mm-hmm. We do not lose a round. And I've already been thinking about, as soon as I heard that, I was like, okay, how is this going to affect Strixhaven? How am I going to do this with my system and stuff like that? Mm-hmm. Because I do natural ones, that's what gives you the surprise condition kind of, right? Kind of thing. So I'm like, I guess what I could do is that, like, if you're ambushed, you would roll disadvantage, and if you get that natural 1, then you would. Maybe.
That's pretty rough. Like losing a turn on your roll, like that's one thing. Having a 10, whatever the percentage is, more
to roll,
like that's like, oh, that makes it even worse. Like, ooh, okay.
Yeah, I don't know. I'll have to maybe just ignore that new surprise rule or adjust my initiative rule.
Yeah, it really just depends on if you like the idea of a surprise round. Like I do agree with what they were talking about, like having surprise round. Sometimes if you get that, there's really just no point in having the combat because you do so much damage before they can even freaking blink that it takes the suspense out of the encounter, which might be fine. Like if you're doing a thing where like you're just trying to get through that encounter, the DM can just decide, okay, they have advantage, they're going to surprise them. Is there literally any way that these individuals would, one, put up enough of a fight to bother doing a 2-hour combat, or like do they just die? Like, and if they just or do they give up? Like if they're get caught off guard, like, oh shit, like they put their hands up, at that point, like, okay, combat's over. Like that's the encounter.
Yeah, it is something for me to definitely think about. With I kind of like what they're doing right now with the disadvantage.
I don't mind it as long as it doesn't screw with my alert feat.
Oh yeah. Like you can't be surprised.
Can't be surprised.
Which I don't think it would, because that would be saying that it would screw with people's danger sense and stuff like that.
It really depends on what they decide to do, because like you have the +5, they'll probably keep that no matter what, because why get rid of it? But they might make it so instead of saying you can't be surprised, they say, oh, you have advantage on initiative as an alert feat. And at that point, it'd be like, okay, now instead of rolling twice, I only roll once because advantage and disadvantage cancel each other out. So like,
I want to see these feats. You know what I mean? Like I want to see what. Doing.
I think the feats are going to be pretty important.
Pretty telling. Yeah, like because I saw it. It was an early one. But in one of the play tests, they had Observant no longer doing the reading lips.
Yeah, and which is fine. Like, I don't think that you should necessarily have to have a feat in order to do that.
Yeah, but it's interesting. Like that would change a lot of characters if that's what they designed their character to do. So now you just have to do a perception check, or you would let your DM let you roll.
I might do a
whatever.
perception intelligence check to read lips.
To read lips.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can't remember who it was, but it was in our Mass Effect. It might have been you, actually.
Probably.
I think. Do you have observant for that character in Mass Effect?
No.
Because someone was trying to read lips while Jason was talking to the assassins. And I can't remember.
I don't
who
recall.
It was I was trying to...
I might have tried because I just have a high wisdom score because I'm an Asari in that game.
Okay.
So I was like, I'll just try and read his lips because I can see, like, I've got +4 wisdom and I'm proficient in it. So, like, I might as well try.
Yeah. Well, let's go ahead and talk about what's going on with some of these feats then. Let's go ahead and move into that kind of discussion here.
Okay.
So they have told us that they're going to be giving us more feats. Like, they haven't told us what those are necessarily.
Mm-hmm.
I'm guessing they're going to be bringing the ones from Tasha's over. That would be like the easiest thing for them to transplant over.
Yeah.
They have said something really cool that I did enjoy, which is backgrounds now give feats.
I'm going to tear this apart.
Yeah, which is interesting because that means we now have level 1 feats. Because you have to have a background at level 1.
They are level 1 feats, but with more steps and worse.
More what?
With more steps.
Oh, okay.
Because from what they said we're going to have backgrounds, and the backgrounds are going to be where you get both a level 1 feat for most of them, because they dipped their toe into it with Wild Spacer and gave everyone the tough feat, which is fine. I don't mind that if that's what you want your level 1 feat to be. Tough is a great feat. But like, if you're gonna give somebody a level 1 feat, just give them a level 1 feat. Why does it have to be tied to a background? Like, it doesn't really make any sense to me. It makes more sense to do the ability score improvements that they're doing, but also that's redundant with Tasha's. But I can understand why they're bringing it to the player's handbook in case they don't want to have to make you buy Tasha's to get the variant rule of using 1-1-1 or 2-1 to whatever it is you want. Putting it in backgrounds gives you like a bit more of a guideline for it. I don't mind that. That's fine. Like, oh yeah, you want to be, you were a charlatan, like you were like a con artist. Well, it probably makes sense for you to put your things into like 2 into charisma and then 1 into like dexterity because you want to like try and steal from them or whatever. But it's more fast talking. Like that makes sense. For giving them like the groundwork for putting together a character.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm sure they'll do the same thing, like, oh, here's a feat that you can have, but like, just give people a level 1 feat and let them take whatever the fuck they want. Who cares?
Yeah, I'm torn because like I agree with you that the use of the attributes makes sense in the background, like because I'm good at what I do because of the experience I've done, not because of me being born the way I am. You know what I mean?
Sure.
And so I get that. However, like obviously a Goliath might have better strength than a gnome. But like so like I get those kind of ideas. With that being said, for feats, I see feats as personality. I see feats as skills we have picked up, and I do think that backgrounds give us a feat, right? Like I think that me being a musician, right, is because I should probably have a feat that deals with music or something like that, right? Like that makes sense to me. Whether it should replace a level 1 feat, that's where I get a little, I'm not sure. Like I should be able to pick something, but most likely I'm picking a background because it makes sense, right? Because that's what my character is driven from. So I do like the going towards more background than species-based idea.
Well, but that's the thing though, because you can say like, oh yeah, I picked a feat that matches with my background. Like that makes sense most of the time. Like for Astra, I was like, okay, I'm gonna be like a gambler. Like I bet all this money on my sister because like I want to fleece these idiots out of all their money. And then and then like and then I have the lucky feat because that makes perfect sense. Like, oh, I'm a gambler. I've known that I have pretty good luck. I'm gonna use that luck to try and make some money. I'm gonna do this other things. I'm gonna like try and game my way through all this nonsense, and it makes sense. Like, yeah, that's perfect. But then, like, if we think about it the other way, there's no way that Hoagie, if his background is a mercenary, he gets the chef feat. Yeah, like no. But I like that. But I like that he's like that. Like, oh yeah, it's a little quirk of his character that through whatever it is he's been doing, because he's been exposed to different things, he has this ability to make good food, help people, like do all this stuff. I don't know if he's going to help people, but he can if he wants to. Like,
yeah.
Like, will he do that or not? I don't know. But like, I like the idea that he just has the ability to choose a different feat than something that would, like, a background would tie him to.
Yeah, no, that's a great point, and I wonder, if they will have a little stipulation like that, because they've done stipulations in the past. If you have a different, you can substitute this for a blah blah blah.
Yeah.
So I'm curious if they will have, like, this is the recommended feat.
Yeah.
Choose from this list.
That's fine, and like,
because I would appreciate even a choose from this list. If the list is vast.
Yeah. I would prefer them to say, here's our recommended list, like they do a recommended spell list sometimes. Like, yeah, just do that.
Yeah.
I'm just saying, like, they have it like, oh, here's your background feat. Like, don't call it a background feat. Just give us a first level feat, and we'll figure it out on our own.
Yeah. No, I do get where you're coming from that, because, like, Hoagie's a great example of that. Him being a wild spacer does not, like, he gets the tough feat, right? Yeah. That's not why he's tough. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like, he's tough because he's a mercenary. You know what I mean? And because he's a fucking hippo. But, like, it's not tough because of him being essentially a smuggler. Like, that's not what's made him tough. And then the chef feat was something that he picked up along the way. But realistically, I think that chef is his hobby. That's the thing that he's done so much in his life. Yeah. Probably the thing he cares more about than being tough.
And to be clear, when we made the character, I think we started out at level 5 or something.
We did, yeah. So he
had the level 1 feat that from tough, and then the level 4 feat of chef where he took that. Yeah. Like, that's fine. I'm just saying, if it were my beautiful mind palace, perfect world, like, he would be able to do wild spacer, and instead of taking tough, which if you want to take tough, that's fine, but like, they can just choose whatever the fuck else you want. Like, just choose anything.
Yeah.
I think that's more fun.
Yeah, I mean, he wouldn't have chosen tough. Like, I like tough. Don't get me wrong. It makes sense for Hoagie quite a bit. Yeah. But him being a wild spacer is not the reason why I would choose.
Right.
So.
But yeah, that's my take on that. Ability scores for backgrounds, that's fine. Feats, just give us a feat. It doesn't have to be anything else. Just like, hey, level 1, everyone gets a feat. Literally everybody.
Yeah.
Have fun.
Yep, I like that. I like that too, though. Another thing they mentioned is that level 19, every class gets epic boons. We knew this was coming. This was actually a variant rule from the 2014 Dungeon Masters Handbook.
Yep.
But they are now officially put into your leveling system. Yeah. And I love it. I absolutely love epic boons, because they have said you can take an epic boon, or you can choose to take the ASI or feat, right? It's your choice. And then on top of that, this is their way of officially saying, do you have level 20 characters who want to try to take on even bigger things? Okay. When you get enough XP, you get another epic boon or a feat or an ASI, right? So it's giving a leveling system past level 20 officially in the PHP, which I really appreciate, because, I'm thinking, like, it would be cool for some campaigns if people are out there want to do these high level, 20 level campaigns, because if you think about it, the chances of you dying at level 20 are also pretty high because of the things you're taking on, right? So it's a high risk, high reward to get past that level 20.
Well, the biggest thing about level 20 is that they needed something past that to entice people to play. Because you have this thing where, like, the goal from level 1 is to get to level 20, get to that mountaintop, climb that rock, and then when you get there, you stop playing, ? Like, that doesn't make any sense. You just got this, like, quote-unquote cool capstone if you didn't multi-class at all. I don't know who doesn't multi-class. I don't know I don't think anyone I've ever known has gotten a capstone from any class, unless you're a wizard, in which case the only reason you did that was because wizard is wizard.
Wizard, yeah.
So, like, it's just one of those things where, like, yeah, you want to get to level 20, and then you want to keep going. You want to keep fighting. You want to use all this cool shit that you got to kill God, like, and then kill his brother, and then kill everything else.
Yeah,
like,
you kill the pantheon.
Yeah, like, you want to, like, say, oh, no gods, only man, and freaking Andrew Ryan everybody. But, like,
could you imagine? do like a Monster Hunters campaign, right? And go all fucking level 20s, take on these giant beasts.
Yeah,
like, that'd be fucking
that'd
cool.
be sick as hell. And like, I'm glad they have that. I know you don't know this, but back in the day, 3.5, they had the Epic Player's Handbook, where they had this kind of thing where there was the feats were epic.
Like Prestige, right? Essentially.
No, Prestige was a different thing.
Okay, that was before that.
I'm not gonna get into Prestige right now. I could talk about it forever.
You explain. Yeah, you did explain Prestige to me once. I know what you're talking about now.
But no, this is specifically from level 20 to 30 for all of the classes. So you could take like level 30 Ranger, and it was you were like this crazy, like basically almost a druid, but with punches and swords, and like you were a whirling dervish with blades, because back then 2-weapon fighting was crazy, and like you could and like your archery was like, oh yeah, you could shoot like halfway around the world and hit a pigeon. Like, it was crazy. But that's what it was. That like, you were basically a god. You were god tier of what you were doing. I'm like, that's so fucking cool.
Yeah, it is. It really is cool. And it's why I love the Mythic Odyssey of Theros book when they did the epic monsters. You know what I mean? That was so cool to look at. You know, and they brought some of those into the Mordecai's Monsters of the Multiverse.
A few.
But yeah, the fun stuff.
Yeah, I like the epic boons too. I like them a lot. I like that you can go past level the cap of 20. You can get up to 30. That's baller as hell.
God tier. I love it. So cool.
Like, I like the idea that now a level 20 campaign is actually a thing. It's not a meme.
Yeah, and I hope that they do some, you know, not that we really use adventure books too much. We use them maybe for inspiration. That's about it.
Yeah.
But it'll be cool to see some adventure books focus on that, right? You know, the kind of, hey, let's look at the level 20 and beyond.
Mm-hmm. Let's look at those epic boons. Let's see how we can, you know, fix that into thing. Let's go down into these level, you know, these challenge rating 26 monsters and just go down and curb stomp their ass.
Yeah. As far as the PHB so far, the only other thing I have, they haven't given us too many of them yet, but they've said there's new spells. They've told us that they're going to be bringing, obviously, from Tasha's, from Xanathar's, you know, mainly Tasha's. Tasha's the one that did more with the spells, to be honest. Yeah. But, you know, they're going to be bringing in some of those spells, redoing some of them. We saw a lot of spell modification during the playtest, so I'm so interested to see what happened to some of those cantrips, because some of those cantrips got better and actually usable. Yeah. Some of them got a little OP. But it seems like the theme of the player's handbook, if I was to give it a theme, is increasing power, not decreasing power. So hopefully the monsters also have that effect, right? You know,
well, mine
not that we both don't. I mean, we homebrew them anyway a lot. So yeah. So yeah, I'm curious about that. I've only seen like one new spell, and it was because I was watching the which one was it? It was the Paladin video. I don't know if you watched the Paladin video, they talk about glory.
Yeah, I remember.
There's a new spell where essentially you overwhelm them with your glory.
Yeah, and
I was like, okay, that's
pretty good.
That's a meme, but I love it. I actually like it.
I mean,
it's very neat.
The Paladin Oath of Glory is kind of a meme in itself. Like, in order to play an Oath of Glory Paladin, you gotta really ham it up, and it's really hard to play a really super hammed up character straight.
Yeah, I've seen. I'm trying to think. Yeah, the best. He wasn't a Oath of Glory, but if you ever get to Tyrion Darrington from Critical Role Season 1, that he would be a great Paladin of Glory, actually.
Yeah, makes sense.
All right, so let's go ahead and talk about the fighter here. Okay. And by the way, if you guys haven't got a look at some of the stuff, even just on the social media sites, a lot of these artists are putting their works in progress out there. Some of this art is some of the most gorgeous art I've seen for D&D yet.
I'm going to assume most people, if they are listening to us, are at least aware of like all of the different things. But, you know, it's fun to hear what people talk about, and that's why we're here. We're here to ramble. We're here to just kind of give our take on some stuff.
Yeah, and I appreciate the works in progress for the transparency and stuff that they've been doing. You know, just because of the whole stuff that's been going on with AI, it's been cool to see just this gorgeous art.
Yeah, I was gonna actually say that before we got into moving on to like the specific classes. Like, I've seen some of the art that they've kind of teased for the player's handbook. It looks fucking amazing. Yeah,
it's unreal. Like, it is a whole nother step from the previous one. You know, like,
so good.
And some of them are returning artists. So you just see how much these artists have grown in 10 years, right? Yeah, I'm excited just to flip through as a book, just to like look at this stuff here. All right, let's talk about the fighter here. So for the fighter, there are 4 subclasses. Three of them are returning from the original one. That would be the famous Battle Master, which is, I'd say, probably the most iconic of all fighters, right?
Yep.
Would you agree with that?
Yep.
Yeah, so Battle Master got even better, which, let's be honest, it did. They also included the Champion. The Champion, probably one of the lesser played fighters, maybe. Got
it.
I use it for like a background for some of my villains, like hey, they were a champion at an arena or something like that.
It's definitely one of the less chosen things. Like when someone is making a character, they don't usually choose champion, but a lot of times, if you go to like say a convention or a shop, like a comic book shop, and they're playing a sit down a pickup game of D&D, there will be a champion there for people who are like, I've never played D&D before, and the DM's like, bet, here's this is how you learn how to play.
It's perfect for that too, right? It's one of the more simplistic things you can do. And what I liked about Jeremy Crawford's take on it was that he said, hey, I don't like playing champions. And he was just like, so I wanted to make a subclass. I wanted to redo the subclass to be one that I would also enjoy. Yeah. Because he's more of a battle master guy, is what I think he said. And so, like, he likes just the strategy
Most
of everything.
Most people are.
And so he was like, champion, I want it to be still simple, like still great for those first-time players, but also something we could enjoy, right, as a person. Yep. So he said he tried making them one of the biggest dishers and damage you can possibly do in the game.
And you know what? He's right.
Yeah.
I heard what he was saying with the champion, and I was like, holy shit.
Yeah. It is very, very cool. That whole heroic inspiration where they can get it every freaking combat.
Anytime you start a turn without heroic inspiration, you get heroic inspiration. What the fuck?
Yeah. Like, that is a fucking feature.
Like, no, it's no wonder that they don't have a whole lot of other features, because that one is like, what? Yeah,
that is huge. The other one is my favorite version of a fighter because I love the idea of it, the Eldritch Knight. And the fact that they made them better at casting made me so happy.
They made an Eldritch Knight a better Blade Dancer than the Blade Dancer.
Yeah, and so hopefully that changes, right? To get
If it doesn't, I'll be very upset.
Yeah. But I'm very excited for the Eldritch Knight. It looks so good. The ability to cast spells from level 1 makes a big difference, right? Yeah. The ability to essentially pick from any list. Because if you remember, that Eldritch Knight and also the Arcane Trickster, they were really boxed in, right? You had to choose from this specific curated list.
Yeah.
Now you choose from anything, and it gives so much more identity. And the thing that you and I have been craving for 5e is to give us more customization, please.
Fucking please. I'm so desperate for the feats because like that's the only thing it gives us.
Yeah, and I'm so excited for that. By the way, I know you haven't got to check out the Barbarian too much. They gave so much more customization of Barbarians for each level. I'm loving it. Like, you have to make choices, and so it's so good. I hate, I'm this level, what do I get? I'd rather say, I'm this level, what can I choose?
Yes.
Yeah.
And
that's what they're leaning towards, and I like that. That's such a better, like, Pathfinder does it so well,
I mean, basically the background thing is, they literally just lifted that from Pathfinder. But yeah, I love Pathfinder as a character creation engine. Pathfinder blows D&D out of the water, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, every level feels like 3 levels,
Well, there's just
in D&D
yeah,
land.
there's just so much stuff you can choose to do because every level you're getting something there's a choice you are making. There is never a point where you're like, oh, okay, I just get this, and then you kind of just like put it into your little computer box, like, oh, yep, and then it's all done. Like, no, you have to sit down, look at all of the freaking things, look at all your choices, see how those choices branch, think about how you want to play your character. It's this whole thing. It's great. I love it. Maybe not the best for new players to TTRPGs, but for someone who's been doing it for 20 years, I think that's fucking great. Yeah,
I agree. And it's it's a hard balance to strike, but I'm loving the move of it.
Yeah.
Psy Warrior is something that they talked about extremely little. From what I remember, Psy Warrior comes from Tasha's Cauldron.
It is unchanged.
And they're bringing it over. They pretty much said small tweaks, right? I think that's what they said.
They said tweaks to the nomenclature and the phrasing and like the context.
Yeah.
But the actual from a mechanical standpoint, it's the same.
Yeah, and I'm guessing it's probably because it scored so high in Tasha's. So,
I mean, the Psy Warrior is good. Like, you don't need to change it. It's fine.
I've never watched or seen anybody play it yet. So I want to see someone experience it. The energy dice sounds kind of cool, really.
Yeah,
like,
I mean,
it reminds me of like the dice that blood hunters get, you know?
Yeah, it is a lot like that. I played a few Psy Warriors, not in 5th edition, but like I've played it over the years in 3.5.
Yeah.
They're good. They're fine. They're a little bit different than 3.5, obviously, because it's a different system. But the Psy Warriors,
yeah,
it's like if you wanted to make a really angry Jedi.
Okay, that's pretty cool. I'm replaying XCOM 2 right now, so when I hear Psy, it makes me think of XCOM 2.
I mean, yeah. I mean, it's kind of like that.
Yeah.
Like that is the idea anyway.
Yeah, before we move on to Paladin, let's talk about just some of all the basic stuff for fighters. The coolest thing for me is that second wind stuff that they're doing.
More second winds.
Yeah, more second winds and more ability to use them for different things. They are essentially using second winds as a tactical device, and I love that because you can use second winds to move, a certain amount of speed, or you can use second winds to heal, or second winds to do more damage, or re-roll a dice.
Specifically
right?
allows you to both move and heal. Because Tactical Shift, which you get at level 5, it allows you, whenever you use your bonus action to use second wind to heal, you get half of your movement speed. And it doesn't provoke attacks of opportunity.
Yeah. Did you see and before that, Tactical Mind, it says expend the use of second wind to add the 1d10 to a failed ability check. If you still fail, it doesn't expend the second wind. That's very nice.
Yeah. That's really nice. It's very fighter. It's very I'm putting up a big fucking struggle to try and achieve the thing that I'm trying to do. I very much like it.
Yeah. They said they were trying to tap into core identities for classes, and the fighter's core identity is that they are a tactician of battle. Like, they know how to fight.
Mm-hmm.
Whether they're smart or not is a different thing. But when it comes to a battle, they're kind of like that medieval warrior who maybe is illiterate, but you know what? They can plan a battle and they can know when to strike, how to do the ambush, how to build ramparts. You know what I mean? Like, they are your general, and it's really cool to see it reflected in the stuff. You mentioned Tactical Master earlier. We didn't say the name of it, but that's the one where they get push, sap, or slow. Mm-hmm. So they can replace any weapon mastery property with push, sap, or slow. And just if you guys haven't looked at those weapon masteries, push is push them back 10 feet. Sap is you make them have disadvantage on their next strike, I believe.
That's Vex, I believe. No, Vex might be you get advantage. I believe you're right. Yeah, Sap gives a creature that you hit disadvantage on their next attack roll. Yep, you are correct.
Okay. And then slow reduces their speed. I can't remember how much it reduces it, but it's...
reduces their speed by 10. 10
by
feet.
10? Okay. Which, if you're a 30 speed, that makes a difference, right? So, pretty nice. Studied attacks is one of my favorite things they did. Get advantage on attacks against a target creature after you miss an attack. So, and it was just the way Jeremy Crawford was talking about it. He was like, as a fighter, I might have missed, but I'm studying you. That me missing created an opportunity of how you defend yourself. I'm going to hit you better next time.
The little blurb they put in was that first one was for research.
Yeah. It's so good.
And then
do you feel...
the example epic boon that we saw was Boon of Combat Prowess, which is increase one ability score by 1 to maximum of 30. Whenever you miss an attack roll, you just decide that you did not miss. Like, oh no, I hit that. Just once per turn. Like, oh yeah, no, I hit that one for sure.
Yeah, you're wrong. I'm right.
Source, trust me, bro.
It's so good.
Once per turn, you can do that. God dank.
Dang, got it. You ready to talk about some Paladin?
Yeah, let's go to the Paladin.
All right, so Paladin, for us, that came out on, I think, a Thursday, right? So Thursday the 20th is when they released that. They gave us the 4 subclasses. So just real quick, those 4 subclasses are Oath of Devotion, Oath of Glory, Oath of the Ancients, my favorite, and Oath of Vengeance.
Vengeance.
So, Devotion, from what they have said, and I agree with this, it is the prototype Paladin in movies and a lot of literature and stuff like that. It's the person who's the shining knight in armor, right? Yep. And so they pretty much said that they didn't have to tweak it too much because Devotion's already pretty strong.
It's the go-to one,
yeah. But with that being said, they tried to make their features last longer, and to also reduce the action cost. And this has been one of the coolest changes in the PHB so far for the marshals, is that they're trying to make if you're trying to activate something, making it cost less than an action, which
making it a bonus action,
right?
Like how a barbarian goes into a rage. Like if it's a status change or like a state change, making it a bonus action makes perfect sense.
Yeah, and like activating your aura, right? Because paladins have auras, if I remember right.
We can talk about the auras in a little bit, but let's go. If we're going to go through the subclasses, let's go through the subclasses, and we can go into the auras specifically.
Sounds good. Yeah. So Devotion, really, really fun. The fact that you can, reduced action cost, giving you a little bit more autonomy over your action economy. Divine Smite has changed, but we'll talk about that when we get there, right? It's not called Paladin Smite. Oath of Glory. It says Peerless Athlete has a longer duration, and your aura ability has a larger radius. So what they said with Oath of Glory is that the auras were different in radii, so they pretty much consolidated.
Yes. That. Now instead of having different auras, you will have one aura that a bunch of modifiers will be tacked onto.
Yeah, well, it will stack.
And that's true for all. That's true for all of the paladins.
Yeah, all the paladin subclasses. They also mentioned for the Oath of Glory, they got a brand new spell. That was that one we were talking about just a little bit ago with your glory overpowering.
Yolanda's Regal Presence.
That's what it's called. Yeah.
Very fun. Very funny.
Yeah, so for that Oath of Glory, each one of these subclasses has a curated spell list, right, that they will get for special spells on top of everything you're doing.
Absolutely.
Oath of the Ancients is my favorite, mainly for the aesthetic of it, but I also just love the idea of what's going on here. That kind of Green Knight, that ability to be one with nature, right? You have the Aura of Warding that now affects specific damage types rather than just spell damage. And then it says Undying Sentinel now lets you regain hit points.
It's pretty nice.
Which is really nice. And an Elder Champion can also be, this is pretty great, can be restored using a level 5 spell slot. If you don't know anything about Elder Champion, it's strong. So being able to get that back with a level 5 spell slot is nice.
That is very nice, actually. I think a level 5 spell slots is a good trade-off for Elder Champion.
It is a good trade. It is a powerful skill, so the fact that they made it a heavy price makes sense.
Yeah, for sure.
All right, the last subclass here is the Oath of Vengeance. The best change that they did was the Vow of Enmity. That was so cool.
Another time where like it's a thing that they want you to use it and then attack. They don't want you to have to use it as a preparation for an attack. They just want bonus action, then attack. Now, granted, if you do that, because of the general change to Paladin where Smite is now a bonus action as well, you can't do Vow of Enmity and then also smite them on the same turn anymore, which you couldn't do anyway because before it was an action to do it anyway.
You actually can now. I don't know if you saw that. Vow of Enmity doesn't require bonus action. It just
shit! No, it happens when you attack. That's that's actually crazy.
Yeah, so you can bonus actions the Paladin Smite or whatever
with Oath of
while
Vow of
also
Enmity.
applying.
Well, Saphira's gonna be happy.
Yeah, it's very nice. It's really good. And then also Avenging Angel, just like Elder Champion, is a very strong feature, so they allow you to restore that using a level 5 spell slot.
I think that's fine with me.
Yep. Yeah, it works.
Now I'm hoping that I will be able to use I guess it doesn't really matter because most of my spell slots are going to be Warlock spells, which will be level 5 anyway. So I'll just use a Warlock spell slot to renew my Avenging Angel.
Yeah, buddy.
It doesn't say I can't do that. It doesn't say a Paladin spell slot.
You know what? That's pretty good. All right, the overall changes with Paladin. We knew it was coming. Lay on Hands is now a bonus action, which is extremely nice. Now, you can't do Lay on Hands and Divine Smite in the same turn, right? But being able to heal someone and not taking your freaking action is so nice. Like, it is something that we've been doing in our games, and it works extremely well. We like it. It doesn't affect diseases anymore, but you can use it on constructs and the undead. That is extremely different than what's
you can heal your golem if you have a golem. Yeah. You can heal your undead. Yeah. What are you doing?
Why are you a paladin?
Well, yeah, there are other paladins besides the ones we just talked about. So
that's true. That's true. Spell casting is a level 1. That's a change. I think it was level 2 or level 3 before.
Yes.
So that is nice having paladin. And the reason why he said was that he wants paladins to finally use their spells besides Divine Smite.
Well, they're not gonna. They're not gonna do that.
Yeah. But we look at level 1 for a paladin: Lay on Hands, spell casting, weapon mastery, and fighting style, all in the first.
I mean,
level.
It makes sense.
Yeah, that's pretty cool though. I like it.
I like it too. I like that they have spellcasting at level 1. I think that's more fun, and I'm all for more fun. You're not gonna be at level 1 for that long anyway, so who gives a shit?
Yeah. Yep. Let's talk about Paladin Smite.
All right, let's talk about Paladin Smite.
All right. It used to be called Divine Smite. I am actually kind of torn on this. I want to get your opinion on this. I've been reading a lot of articles from people just trying to see how other DMs are reading into it.
Okay.
But essentially, the good thing is you get one for free, first of all, which is nice. You get like one just automatically, doesn't use a spell slot. And then afterwards uses spell slots. That's a nice thing that they did. You can use it with unarmed strikes. That is nice. You can no longer use it at range like you used to be able to. People don't like that, but I'm actually okay with that, if I'm being honest.
It just depends.
That doesn't bother me.
Honestly, it depends. Because I remember back when I was thinking about multi-classing my Warlock into a Paladin, I was like, hey, can I use my Smite with my Eldritch Blast? Because, like, logically speaking, the power I'm using is the same power that a Divine Smite would have with my Eldritch Blast. So, like, it makes sense from a lore perspective. Mechanically, it's kind of very, very, very strong. But yeah. Like shooting a crossbow and then smiting somebody, it doesn't really have the same oomph as taking a sword and like imbuing with holy power and then smacking somebody with it, you know?
Yeah. That's interesting. Yeah. The and specifically because Eldritch Blast is a cantrip, you can cast a spell with a cantrip. So that's interesting. That the way you're describing that, I'm kind of curious if that will be a discussion.
I mean, there's also the thing that Warlocks have their own thing called Eldritch Smite, which they have. It's like a whole other different thing, but it's not a Paladin thing. So it's just one of those things where you look at it and you're like, I can see it. I can see it going either way. I don't like the bow smite. I think bow smiting is kind of silly, but magical. But like I'm throwing a magical thing at somebody, I can see why. Like to me, it makes sense. But as a DM, I can also be like, that is so strong. It's so good.
I'm just thinking like bow smite multi-classed with sneak attack.
Yeah,
like ouch.
Yeah,
like. But I will say, the thing I don't like about Paladin Smite is it is physically casting a spell now.
Yeah, you can be
use the spell slot.
You can be anti-magic shield. You can be counter-spelled. Like it's definitely less free.
Effective.
I wouldn't say it's less effective. It is just as effective as it used to be, but there are answers to it now. Whereas before, there were no answers. Like, oh, I hit you. Get ready to get your ass blasted out of your anus. Like you're just dead. Like you're just gonna explode a little bit, and that's fine. But
yeah, I mean, think about our fight last night with Ketheric Thorn.
Yeah,
I got divine smited like.
Imagine if I could have counterspelled his divine smite.
Yeah,
like that.
Exactly. That changes the game a little bit.
Yeah, it absolutely does.
What's also interesting is that you have some magical species, like I'm thinking Rakshasa.
Yep.
They can't. I think they're like magically immune or something like that. There's like a special thing that they have where like divine smite would literally not affect them. So it's like, that's gonna change. Like now this Rakshasa, however you say it, is one of. It's a type of like fiend.
Yeah, it's a
fiend.
Like that. It is a fiend.
And divine smite doesn't work on it.
I mean, there might be a different I mean, that's hard to say because, like, yes, it does have that ruling. If I'm a DM, the magic immunity that they have is limited anyway. But I don't know. It's
I mean,
it's kind of
rule
weird.
it.
It's kind of like a strange thing because the thing is, the reason they're being because like the wording is they can't be affected by a spell of 6th level or lower, and like advantage and saving throws against all spells and ritual effects. That's tough.
Yeah.
That's a tough one because like I don't know if I would allow them to be immune to a divine.
But they are fiend, right? They're fiend.
They're fiend.
Okay, so here's how, if it was me as a DM, and this is definitely not how maybe the player's handbook might rule it, I would rule it as it would hit because Divine Smite literally usually targets fiends and undead, and it does extra damage. At least it used to. We don't know the wording yet.
Yeah.
But that to me is like using a silver sword. You know what I mean? Like a silver sword on a monster.
Yeah, I would agree. Yeah, I tend to agree.
Yeah, I think I would rule it like a silver sword rule.
Yeah.
But yeah, interesting. Great. It's a cool discourse you could have, though.
You've stumbled into a very niche situation there, but it is definitely worth talking about for sure.
Yeah. All right, Channel Divinity. You can be used twice now, so they give you more Channel Divinities. Mm-hmm. And I believe they said that Channel Divinity will be stacking, like they'll be stacking effects of Channel Divinity.
Well, they put Divine Smite with Channel Divinity.
Divine Sense. Yeah. Divine Sense is what it was. Yeah, so that's really cool. I have never used the spell, but Faithful Steed, the Fine Steed.
Yeah.
So that's like a classic Paladin thing.
Absolutely.
So that would be really cool to see. I can see Shaunus riding a fucking steed.
Yeah, Knight of Shining Armor with a big fucking horse. That's the dream.
Yep. They put Abjure foes in the essentially like every subclass of Paladin has some form of abjuring foes. Mm-hmm. They put it into the basic Paladin features now.
Yeah.
At level 9.
Makes sense.
Which is nice. Aura of Courage, which is if an ally within the frightened condition enters your aura, the condition no longer has any effect. So that's really nice. Radiant Strikes are just improved. They were the improved Divine Smite. Mm-hmm. You can use them with unarmed strikes now, just like you can use your Divine Smite with unarmed strikes.
Very fun.
Restoring Touch is really cool. I liked looking at that one. Spend 5 hit points from your Lay on Hands pool to remove selected conditions. I think they're expanding the conditions is what they're trying to do there.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting because like level 14, that's pretty high up.
And
so
then
like, the conditions that is going to be able to heal better be like petrification and like serious actual things. Like like I'm thinking about like it's equivalent to like a greater restoration spell.
Yeah, and it's so high in level. I would hope so, right? At least what, level 14?
Yeah, it's level 14. I mean, 5 hit points for it is a little low.
But you can spend more if you do multiple conditions.
Yeah, I guess if you had different, like 5 for poisoned, and then 10 for paralyzed, and then 15 for petrified or something like that. Like as it gets more and more, and then like like 20 for a full greater restoration, where like you can basically heal somebody for like
all of it,
curses and shit.
Yeah, I will say that it is kind of low if I think about it, because you get 5 lay on hand points per level. So if you're at level 14, you're getting 7? You have 70 lay on hand.
Yeah,
that is kind of low if you think about it.
Yeah, 5 is a little low for what like again. I'm speculating, so hopefully it'll be balanced.
All right, let's spend probably just a little bit of time on Barbarian. One, because it's getting close to that time for us to wrap up here, but also because it literally just released. Like it for us, at least. It was released this morning at noon, and we're filming this. We started filming at 4:30ish, so it is very new. So we haven't had as much time to digest it. Mm-hmm. But with that being said, we'll talk about at least these 4 subclasses here for the Barbarian. You have the Berserker, the classic, tried and true. You have the Wild Heart, which used to be the animal totem of the animal or something like that. I can't remember what it was called.
Path of the Totem, isn't it?
Yeah, Path of the Totem Warrior or something like that, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, you have the Zealot, which was from, oh my gosh, Xanathar's is where Zealot came from. And then you have a brand new one, which is the Path of the World Tree. And actually, by the way, Zealot originally started in Mythic Odyssey. That's what the first issue of it was, and they brought it back for Xanathar's. Side little note there. But World Tree is this brand new subclass that's probably one of the most fresh things we've ever seen happen to Barbarian ever. Because it does not feel as much like a Barbarian, but it feels really cool.
It is interesting. I'm not sure how to feel about it. Just like I didn't know how to feel about it when they initially brought it in for the playtest. Like, do I love Norse mythology? Absolutely. Do I think a World Tree, like Druid thing would be cool? Yes. Does it work Barbarian?
Yeah. What my understanding of it is, it's less of the barbarian and more of like that Viking, seer that they used to have, that person who had the stones and and they would go through the rituals. That's what it kind of feels like to me a little bit, but with the power of a fucking barbarian. Regardless, Path of the Berserker, they changed Frenzy. If you guys don't remember, Frenzy was the one that allowed you guys to get another attack. So you could essentially get like 3 attacks. The problem was it gave you exhaustion. So they said, no, let's not do that. Instead, let's make you deal extra damage. So you can do a hell of a lot of damage now. They haven't told us how you're rolling that damage yet, but we're curious to see how that works. Path of the Wild Heart has been changed from the Totem Warrior. It is, for me, such a better change. Because before, you would pretty much, you didn't have to do this way, but a lot of people would pick the bear, right? And then when they got to the next level for it, they would also choose the bear because they kind of felt railroaded into that selection. Even though the words say you didn't have to do that. So what they did is they changed every animal. So the very first set is like, your bear, your eagle, your typical first 3, right? But then the next set of them are 3 different animals.
Right.
And the reason why is because you can change your spirit of the animal that you are bringing every time you rage.
Yep.
Or after a long rest, right? So that's kind of cool. I actually like that because it brings more of animal spirits as a whole rather than I am specifically a bear, right? Which is
a
cool.
very,
with that being
very sus thing to say, but yes.
No, yeah. With that being said, the bear did actually get nerfed a little bit. At least
a little bit.
They haven't told a lot of it. They used to be resistant to everything but what?
Psychic.
Force and psychic?
Just psychic, not force.
Was it just psychic? Okay. From the playtest, they haven't told us now, but from the playtest, it was your typical slashing, bludgeoning, piercing, and then you choose 2 of your choice.
Was it 2 or 3? Anyway, either way, yeah.
Oh, it might have been.
It was
yeah.
It was anything of your choice besides psychic or force.
Yeah.
Which I mean, I'm not really sure what force even is. Like, I'm a warlock main, and I couldn't tell you what the hell force damage is and why it's different.
Feels a lot like.
And I couldn't tell you why it's different from bludgeoning. I could not tell you. Like, it doesn't make any sense to me. But I'm not going to question it because force damage is pretty good.
Yeah.
So yeah.
I wonder if they should just change it to like energy. If that
makes
I know that's so great.
Like, just make because like just call it arcane damage. Like, okay.
Yeah. But you know what I'm saying though? Like, it's like,
yes.
When I think about the spells that do force, I picture some type of, maybe like photon or like, some kind of ray of energy.
Well, I mean, the go-to, the go-to is Eldritch Blast, which, I mean, you like from the basic of the basics, the bread on the fucking toasted butter bullshit. It's just a ray of green, not even green, but like whatever energy you want it to be. Why it's force damage is a great question. I think it was basically a mechanics decision. It was like, oh yeah, let's give Warlock this really cool spell no one else can use. It'll make them less sad that they only have 2 spell slots. And that was the end of it.
But you know what? It gets better over time.
Does
well,
it?
I like the Eldritch Blast. You can shoot multiple ones. I like that effect.
Yes.
Because you're not like required to like hit once. You can hit multiple targets.
I do like
damage.
that they're individual beams. Yes.
Yeah. Versus like I think Firebolt and Ray of Frost, it has to be.
Okay, you're saying that Eldritch Blast gets better, not that having.
Yes. Sorry.
Because I was saying like, having 2 spell slots gets better. Like it doesn't really.
no. I'm saying Eldritch Blast gets better.
Yes.
For the like in a good way.
Yes, it does.
The Path of the World tree is the brand new one. It's essentially like we talked about. You have this multiversal tree, Yggdrasil, and you're drawing power from it.
It's so weird.
You can teleport.
Yeah, I don't. Okay, sure.
You can extend your reach of your weapon, so you can essentially like the branches are helping.
That is the coolest part. That is the coolest part of it for me.
The idea of the barbarian of the world tree is that it is hard for enemies to escape you. If I'm being honest, that's what they're trying to do. Like, nothing can hide you from your multiverse planar ability. There's nothing that can reach you out of sight. Because eventually at I can't remember which level it is, I think it might be like 14 or something like that, you get the ability to teleport your party as well. So like, this guy's running away from me, this boss, I teleport not just myself, but my party to them. So that's kind of what they're going
I hear you. As somebody like who has like I played Barbarian before, but like it's just so far removed from the core concept of a barbarian that I kind of don't like it. Like I like the idea of
it comes almost offensive to barbarian.
It just doesn't make sense. Like, oh, it's a barbarian. He's teleporting. What? Oh, he's using the things to let people not escape. He's like controlling the battlefield. Like, this is not what barbarians do. This is not what they're for.
Yeah. And you're right about the idea of, it would work really well for a druid. If we're being honest,
it's just a shitty druid.
Yeah, and that I do agree with you that it works better for a druid. I like it because it is so fresh, you know what I mean? And the way he was talking about barbarian is that they are more supernatural, which I never thought of barbarians as kind of supernatural. But he kind of talked about them as these primordial, like, think about when they go into danger sense and stuff like that. Like, they're tapping into something primordial that they are able to react. And I was kind of digging the way Crawford was discussing it. Like, don't think of them as, basic barbarian with no powers. Think about them as they have something more in tune with the earth that's allowing them to do
I like it when they're more mystical. Like the
more mystical.
Like the power of the
like the zealot is a good
zealot is a great example. That's less mystical and more divine, because the zealot is specifically a god that's imbuing them with these powers. It's like a really angry paladin, which is also a little bit of a divergence. But I've also I can conceptualize in my brain space somebody who gets so angry and righteous and for the fury that they're just gonna beat the shit out of you. I can see it.
I think of the zealot very Viking to me, actually, because it reminds me of when they would, pray to Odin or pray to Thor, and and stuff like
what the problem with that statement is.
What?
If you were gonna have a Viking, why wouldn't it be Path of the World tree? Because that's the culture.
No, but that's not wrong. That is not wrong.
That's what I'm saying. Even in the one example you can think of, oh yeah, that's what I think of when I think of a Viking, not the one based on the fucking lore of that culture. Not that one. This other one. Okay, so why does this other one exist?
Yeah. I mean, for me, I think about a zealot to me is like a barbarian with a pantheon.
Yes.
So, and that could be Viking, but it also could be Roman, right? Think of the Romans who would worship their god and stuff like that. That's the way I see zealot. How that's different than paladin? I guess the mechanics.
You can't cast spells.
Yeah, but that's the difference. It's I want to be a barbarian paladin, I'm going to choose zealot. And that is an okay justification to me.
Sure. Zealot is fine. I have no problem with zealot. Path of the World tree is in my opinion, there to be there, and I don't really like. I again, it's like it's a cool concept. I understand what they were going for, but making a controller barbarian is stupid because why would they wouldn't be thinking about this. They're raging. They wouldn't be thinking, but this person might escape. Like, unless the person who might escape is the person literally right in front of your bloodshot, blood-drenched teeth eyes, like, fucking, you're not gonna care because you're raging.
Yeah, and they have changed rage a little bit. If you think about it, this kind of extends us into the basic barbarian. Mm-hmm. For them, rage is a little bit less about the anger, which is a weird concept, and more about that primordial power they're tapping into.
Well, then they need to change it and call it primal state or something like that.
Primal state or something like that. Because for them, rage. What I do like about rage now is that I can spend a bonus action just to keep it going.
Yeah.
Rather than having to attack.
Yeah.
That's kind of.
I do like that. I do like the you just keep it going. Just make people do something. It's needing to be attacked or attack every single round, or you go out of rage is like. I mean, that's 6 seconds. I don't know if you can calm down in 6 seconds. I've been angry before. I don't know if it goes that quickly.
Never for me, I'll tell you that.
Yeah, but
unless I am just completely in the wrong. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I mean, utterly.
Well, if you were a barbarian, you wouldn't really care if you were in the wrong anyway. So it's whatever.
Yeah.
But, the only thing that I'm, and this is me being my own devil's advocate at this point. I've seen people do this thing let's say they wanted to make a monk and then they multi-class in barbarian, and their barbarian rage, quote unquote, is them basically going into a trance and mechanically it's a rage, but from a lore standpoint it's them basically going ultra instinct. That's
kind of cool.
Yeah, it's the opposite of rage. In a lore standpoint, they are not raging. They are literally just allowing their body to operate on its own and react to stimuli without their brain getting in the way, which I think is cool.
We'll just petition wizards to recall rage, ultra instinct, or super.
Well,
you go super.
Yeah, and the other one is the one I was talking about to you before, where I have a idea for a warlock barbarian where when the barbarian rages, she allows her ancestor to take over her body and absolutely fucking murder somebody
which is just perfect.
Because her ancestor is this bloodthirsty warrior and she is not.
Yeah, I think that works so well.
But that's what I'm saying. If that were called primal state, that would work way more than calling it rage. And I know they want to keep calling it rage because it's been called rage since the beginning of time and people know it as rage.
Yeah.
But if you're going to be doing shit like this, where you're making a control class for a barbarian, it can't be called rage because it doesn't work.
Did you know that in the very first D&D, elves were a class?
I did know that.
I learned that while watching.
Yeah, that is. Isn't that fun?
I turned to Kat and I just started laughing, and she was like, "Huh."
That would be the class that Kat chooses every time.
Yeah. Danger Sense got a nice improvement. It's no longer ever affected by sight. As long as I don't get incapacitated, I always have danger sense.
I like that. I like that a lot.
Which is so nice because, when I'm hokey, I always have to ask you, can I see it? You know what I mean?
Yep.
It just clears that up so easily.
Yep. And it's definitely cleans that up a little bit. It makes it so that, it's more of a spider sense than it's more of a supernatural thing than it is a physical reaction.
Yeah, and you can see that in some of the stuff they're doing. There's primal knowledge, feral instinct, instinctive pounce. They're trying to move towards what you're talking about.
Yeah. It's a good idea. I think they should do that.
They just have the first word rage being there.
They fucked up on the first step, and now everything else is them stumbling over themselves as they try to course correct, but it's too late.
Yeah, and primal knowledge is perfect for this because, they say, hey, you can gain proficiency in a barbarian skill of your choice. Awesome, right? You replace a typical ability score with strength when making certain skill checks. So I think they use intimidation, persuasion, those kind of things, right? You can use strength, but
I'm pretty sure they said stealth in one of the examples, and I was like, that doesn't make any sense.
So there was, who actually gave a good example was actually Todd, the guy interviewing. he said, imagine that gigantic spider creature that we're all thinking of that you never heard sneaking up on you. You know they're super strong. They're huge. And yet you never heard them sneaking up on you because they're so strong that they're barely putting any pressure on their feet. They're like lifting their muscles up. And I was like, I kind of get that. Like, I kind of get that. You know?
It does. It makes... Like, it doesn't make sense logically. Like, my logical brain is like, no, that's fucking stupid. But my other side of my brain is like, this is hilarious. Because I'm sure you've heard this example before, but like, imagine you're like this... Like, you're playing this big fucking bugbear barbarian motherfucker, and he's like, okay, you need to make a stealth check, use your strength because you're raging, and it's literally you're just like stomping around, and then somebody like the guard like looks over to them, sees this gigantic bear just glaring at them, like, say something, and they're just like, I don't see anything, and like they fucking like fail at whistling a couple times as they run away, like, and that's the successful stealth check.
I need that animated.
Like, that's all I think about when they say that kind of thing. It's like, it doesn't make any goddamn sense, but goddamn is it hilarious.
Feral Instinct at level 7, you can no longer act while surprised even if you enter range. So that's kind of interesting there. Instinctive Pounce, which is when you rage, you can move up to half your speed as you rage. I kind of picture it like a big leap, you know, kind of like it's a pounce, obviously, right? But just like, whoa, and you jump up to them, you know, kind of thing.
That's going to be really useful for specifically Vasi. Because now, if they have an extra, 15 feet, because now that's a lot for a gnome.
Yeah, levels 9 through 15 are where barbarians get really fun because you get this thing called Brutal Strike, right? Now, it used to be called Brutal Critical, right? And Jeremy said he wanted to get rid of it because he hated that people had to roll a critical for it to even happen.
Yeah.
Kind of thing. So he's like, let's just make it better striking. So essentially, you do your reckless attack. You're going to do your reckless attack, right? But you give up your advantage to hit.
Right. And
by doing that, you do a bunch of damage and you debuff the person.
Yeah, it's like a power attack. Like if you have the feats that allow you to do the power attack things, like -5 to -5 to hit, but you get 10 damage or something like that. It's like that. That great weapon master. Yeah, exactly. Thank you.
Yeah. And, like, what's cool about that is that it's still a cost. Like, I'm doing Reckless Attack, which means they have advantage on hitting me that whole next round. Yep. But I'm trading off my advantage for something else. And then it gets better. When you look at level 13, you get improved Brutal Strike. So now you get even more options to debuff that person, and it goes up in damage.
I do like it more options.
Yeah, I like it because it makes me think of the rogue who can trade off some of their sneak attack.
Yeah, that's also where my mind went immediately as well, and I think that's a great idea.
Yeah, so I love that. The Relentless Rage allows you to keep your rage active even when you hit 0 hit points. Barbarians get quite a bit. Indomitable Might allows you to include your strength saving throws, and then obviously the epic boon, right?
Yep.
Stuff. So very, very fun stuff. The Barbarian got quite some tweaks into there, especially on how their rage takes place, right?
This would also happen with the Paladin, but whenever you do like the Relentless Rage, whenever you bounce back, it used to be like, it gives you instead of going to 0, you go to 1 hit point. Like this time you go to 0 and you get more hit points. I don't know the exact calculations in front of me, but I know it's not 1, which means that
they're going to give you more.
Which means that it's better. So I like that. I like. One of the most annoying things in Dungeons & Dragons for me, personally, is the idea that if you continuously yo-yo with 1 hit point, you're up and down and up. Like, you're conscious, unconscious, conscious, unconscious, unconscious. Like, I don't like that. I think it's kind of silly. I understand why it's not... I understand that, like, for a game as, frankly, simple as 5th edition, it really can't be more complicated than that. But it always like kind of like, and we haven't run into it much, like if at all, in our games. But like the idea kind of like chafes.
Yeah. Well, I think that's about it. That's a pretty good amount of stuff there for our episode 7 of Tavern Ramblings. How do you feel?
Yeah, we ran over a little bit, but not nearly as much as we used to.
Yeah, we're doing better.
Sometimes there's just a lot of stuff to talk about, and there's a lot of things to consider, and there's a lot of thoughts and feelings to parse through, and we all have to think about how we live in this world of Dungeons and Dragons.
Yeah, I mean, we just covered 4 videos, dude. Like that's a lot.
Yeah, we definitely blasted through it, but I think when we actually get the player's handbook, we'll do our comprehensive
Due
course.
diligence.
And by comprehensive, I mean as comprehensive as we're going to do in an hour. But we'll get into them a lot more granularly.
Yeah, they're fun. Check them out. You know, what I recommend. They have the charts that you can read through them if you want to. If you're more of that like a visual learner like that. I like watching the videos because I like to hear Jeremy's justifications for things. Him being the lead project guy, like it's good to hear from the horse's mouth.
I don't mind watching him as long as I'm watching on 1.5 speed because they talk really slowly.
Oh, so slow. Yeah. So speed it up. YouTube's great about that. I was gonna say the other thing that's really cool is they've been doing these every day since Tuesday. They've been releasing these. I don't know if they're gonna do it over the weekend. We'll find out tomorrow. But they'll be doing them next week as well. So I'm excited to see what they'll do. Stay tuned with us and keep up with them.
Yeah, absolutely.
With that being said, thank you for joining us here at Tavern Ramblings from Lizards and Locations. This is John, brought to you also with
Andrew. Make sure you get your heroic inspiration back.
With that being said, guys, thanks for joining us. Have a good day.